first thing you need is something to paint on. Now this is an old canvas board that's got a painting underneath, and what I've done is I've used some acrylic white gesso primer. It's by Winsor & Newton, and I put a layer of this. You can put a couple of layers of this, let each one dry, but I put a layer of this on top so it covers the underpainting, and you can just start all over again. So I usually use a large flat brush and apply it, and I would actually suggest waiting 24 hours between each application. But a much cheaper alternative is you could use white matte emulsion paint. Make sure it's matte emulsion because it won't have that sheen, and it works just as good as a primer. And again, do 2 coats and wait for them to dry in between. So it's a really cost-effective way of priming your paintings. And you can use sort of any surface. It can be paper, it can be acrylic paper, canvas, and obviously old paintings you can paint over the top of with the primer. And there's no pressure as well, because you know, if you don't like the painting, you can use the white matte emulsion or the gesso to paint over the top and start again. So I hope that's helpful little tip there on the surface. So next we're going to talk about is the Stay Wet palettes. If you don't know, I'll tell you now, acrylics dry extremely quickly. So to make a Stay Wet palette, it keeps them from drying out. So the first thing you need to do, here I've got a plastic box, but you can use a tray, you know, anything like that, as large as you want. And you just wet the kitchen towel or a J-cloth, putting it inside the plastic box, as you can see I'm doing here. So I'm really soaking this kitchen towel, and I'm going to put that cups to one side. I'm just going to drain off any excess liquid because I don't want to over wet my acrylics. I just want to keep them from drying out. Otherwise the water can seep through and actually over wet your acrylics. I'm using baking or parchment paper. I'm going to pop this now inside this box and really push it down so it's nice and flat. And this, hopefully, I'm just draining off any excess liquid there. This is going to, you can put your acrylics on top of this now, your little blobs of acrylics, and it will stop them from drying out. And it's a process called osmosis. So it's really effective. So I've got a large tube, a pouch of acrylic here by Sennelier. It's really good. I would suggest always buy a big pouch or tube of white titanium because you're going to be using a lot more of that. So it's a cost-effective way. Don't buy small tubes of white because you'll find you'll be wanting to buy them all the time. The other thing you'll be wanting when you're painting in acrylics is some kitchen towel or old rags just to wipe off things. I've got a really cheapy plastic knife there, which I would recommend as well. And I really like using flat brushes in acrylics. You can get synthetic flat brushes from most craft or art shops at such a cheap price. A big sort of pack of them would cost, you know, about £5 plus. I wouldn't pay too much more for acrylic brushes because they get spoilt so easily. And my suggestion would be to get a large, medium and small brush. The large can be about an inch, inch and a half, whatever suits you. The medium about an inch, a half inch, and then the small, a 1/4 inch brush. Just something that suits your needs. And I quite like those. You can see they're quite messy there as well, but they really were very economical for me to buy. So I've got my plastic knife here, but also you can get a cheapy palette knife as well, metal one, which really does the trick. Another thing I love to use is cut up old store cards for techniques, and the little keys that you get on the back of canvas paintings. They're great for creating texture with. So they're my tools of my trade, as it were. And as you can see, I've got a bit of plastic sheeting. You can use old newspaper or something to protect your surface area whilst you're painting. It's quite important. You can buy acrylic paints in tubes or pouches. whatever, you know, your budget will be different from everyone else's, but I would say yes, buy a really sort of cheapy box of acrylics when you're first starting out, but get, as you saw there in my left hand, always get a good artist yellow if you can, and obviously you've got the gesso if you need it, but you know, you want to buy large amounts of white, a small artist yellow, and you can just have sort of more, you know, cheaper sort of box of acrylics to get you started. You know, obviously when you carry on acrylics, you can add a little bit more. You know, you can sort of say to people to buy you something for your birthday or Christmas, but to get you started, to find out if you like it before you spend a fortune and decide that actually you prefer to paint in another medium. So I really hope this has been useful. If you have any questions about these materials, please don't hesitate to ask me and put them in the comments section below. A little tip here, a little extra, is that when you're squeezing out your acrylics, just to save a little bit on wastage, is just to put a little blob of each colour. Don't put loads out. It's almost impossible obviously to get those back into the tubes, but what you can do is you can actually put something over the top of your tray or lid, some cling film or something like that to cover it and keep it in a cool place. And as long as the kitchen towel or the you know, whatever you've used to wet underneath your baking paper is damp, your acrylic paints won't dry out. The only thing, sometimes they might go a little bit moldy, so you don't want to keep them there for an extended period of time. So I'm just using this smaller tray for the video. I'd like to use something at least A4 size so I can put my paints in a row and then have lots of space to actually mix my colours. One of the things I love about these Stay Wet palettes is they're easy to clean up because you don't have to wash them afterwards. You can just roll this parchment paper up or baking paper and just bin it, so it's really kind of easy to clean up afterwards as well. The colours that I would suggest you buy if you don't buy a cheapy set is a yellow, a red, a blue, a brown, a white and a black or a violet. Keep it really simple. You can get a lot of colour mixes just by having those primary colours and then start adding to them. But there's lots of very economical acrylic sets out there. If you check out my Amazon link below, I have got a list of all the sort of basic supplies that you'll need to start acrylic painting. So I hope you find that helpful. A full list of all the materials I've used here you will find in the description below. Just click show more. So there we are, there's my little starter kit, my budget starter kit. I hope it's been helpful. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial or short video about my materials. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and you'll get updates of my latest acrylic videos. Thanks again for watching. Happy painting. Bye for now.